Good morning, Singapore, and to the thousands of people dialed online, it's a pleasure to have your attention for the next few minutes. Today, I will be talking about something a little bit different, investment migration, the trends around residence and citizenship by investment. So I am the head of private clients at a firm called Henley Partners. And I consider myself a global citizen, and this is exactly what I do. So this is just a quick snapshot of my travel the last 18 months. I've already gone past the moon. And I spend my time working with successful entrepreneurs, international investors all over the world that are looking to build their portfolio of residence and citizenship around the world. And I also advise governments on how to create these programs. So we do two things at Henley Partners. We work with private clients. These are generally high net worth individuals, successful business owners that understand the benefits of having a plan B or a plan C or a plan D. Because we live in a pretty volatile world, there's a lot of geopolitical events all over the world. And so I think more and more people are starting to realize the benefits of having multiple citizenships and residence around the world. We also advise governments, as I mentioned. We strategically assist them to create and design these residence and citizenship by investment programs. We've raised significant foreign direct investment over the last almost 30 years where we've been specializing in this field. Big global footprint, over 55 offices around the world, large expansion across the US. So the Americans are actually our number one market now. These are clients that are not looking to relocate out of the US, but they realize the benefits of having an alternative citizenship or multiple countries that they can reside in if they need to. Key points just to note is the difference about what we're talking here. So on the residence side, there's various types of residence permits. Here in Singapore, you can have an employment pass that is linked to your employer. So if you look at things like employment visas, tourist visas, these are all much more short-term, and they're always subject to certain conditions, where citizenship is a permanent state. Unless you become completely persona non grata, no one can take your citizenship away from you. And for a lot of people, and especially for me, your citizenship allows you to get a passport of that country, and that's your international travel document. So this is not tax residence. So tax residence is another whole area to talk about, but we're talking about the physical right to reside in a country. And if you're a citizenship of that country, you naturally have that right as well. And where I focus on is obtaining either residence or citizenship by investment. So there's a number of government-regulated programs around the world where if you have the financial capacity and you can pass that government's due diligence checks, background checks, your source of funds need to be clean, then you can actually acquire residence and citizenship of those countries. So where did it all start? It started in the Caribbean. St. Kitts and Nevis in 1984, so this is a long time ago now, launched the first ever citizenship by investment program, and that is now extended significantly. So our chairman, he is the pioneer of the industry. He started with the government in St. Kitts, and of course that has now grown into a significant multi-billion-dollar industry worldwide. So there's a number of countries around the world now where you can acquire directly citizenship by investment without having to physically relocate, without having to sometimes learn a new language. And this is the attractiveness to a lot of families and individuals that we advise. And there's a lot of options. So there's about 40 programs that have successful, well-regulated and attractive programs available. So here in Singapore, you have the Global Investor Program, which is looking for single-family office setups, starting new businesses, investing into venture capital funds, and with that, you can become a permanent resident of Singapore. So this shows a large sort of collection of different options. In the Caribbean, you can see there's 5 of these independent Commonwealth islands that now offer citizenship by investment. This again raises significant FDI for these countries, so it's a very strategic tool that governments can use to raise funding where it's required. North America has a lot of options. There's a really interesting startup visa in Canada. We see a lot of demand in the US for South America, places like Panama and Costa Rica. Europe, you can see, has a lot of options available. Citizenship acquisition is possible in countries like Austria and Malta, where you can naturalize through making an exceptional investment and bringing a significant contribution to these countries. They are also members of the European Union, so not only do you get a very good travel document in the passport, but you actually have settlement rights across the European Union. And then closer to home, where we are in Singapore today, Malaysia, Thailand, Hong Kong, Indonesia just introduced a golden visa. And of course, in the Middle East, Dubai, where I'm based most of the time, also has a very successful golden visa program. And that's where the industry currently sits. So there's over 100 countries globally that actually have some form of legislation or regulation in place that allows for residence or citizenship by investment. But as I said, there's only about 40 that are truly attractive and run successfully. And it's for everyone. And of course, this is now probably the fastest growing segment in terms of where we see demand. So the other thing we do at Henley Partners is we release, we have a great research department. We release a lot of reports throughout the year. We did our second crypto wealth report earlier this month, and you can see the numbers there. So we actually track the populations of millionaires, centimillionaires being those with a net worth of $100 million or more, and billionaires. And you can see year on year, we've only been doing the report for 2 years, but you can see the significant growth in this industry as well. And so this we'll continue to do, and very interesting statistics. And then we look at millionaire migration. So these are individuals with net investable assets of at least $1 million, not necessarily crypto, but just across all sectors. And here you can see the physical movement of people as well. People are becoming more global, more mobile. If one thing COVID taught us, it's that you don't have to live outside the factory door. So people are spending, 3 or 4 months in 3 or 4 different locations, depending on their lifestyle and business. And you can see a consistent increase year on year as millionaires start to move around the world a lot more. And we anticipate that going forward, that will only increase. And within this, you have winners and losers. So you have certain countries that have a net outflow of millionaires, and of course those that are benefiting from a net inflow of millionaires. China and India are very often at the top of this list. Very large populations, significant wealth creation, and of course, as people's life circumstances change, they may seek to make a move. I think the interesting one from the latest report that we put out was the UK. So lots of tax reform there. They're changing their very attractive resident non-domicile scheme. So we see a lot of interest in other tax attractive destinations in Europe and places like Dubai. And whenever there's an election year, the Labour Party just came in the UK, but we see this in the US as well. So we've got a big election coming up there, and so we see a lot of interest there. And then in terms of the winners, the UAE and particularly Dubai has been at the top of the list for the last 3 years, expecting to see a net inflow of 6,700 millionaires during the course of 2024. The other key takeaway from this is that other than Japan, all of these countries have an investment migration program. So the UAE has their golden visa. They issued about 158,000 golden visas during the course of 2023. The US has the EB-5 program. Singapore, we mentioned the startup visa, and so we go down the list. Italy, Switzerland, Greece, and Portugal are particularly going to benefit from the Brexodus that we see out of the UK that's currently happening. And then just a last point on domicile diversification. So this is the main driver, this is the main factor we discuss with most of our clients is I should have more options. So if you are a high net worth individual, you're fully aware that you need to be diversified across different asset classes. So you invest into real estates and bonds and equity. And now, of course, cryptocurrencies and other alternative investments, but then it makes no sense that you have one country of citizenship and where you can reside. So this is the main reason for most of our clients. And then just very quickly, I talk about portfolios. I talk about this a lot. So just to give you an idea of this, I am a South African. I have a passport that is not a very good travel document, and we have another analysis on our website where you can build your own portfolio and see how things improve. So as a South African, we look at different things like what business opportunities do I have, access to healthcare, education. I also have citizenship in Montenegro. I have residence here in Singapore, and I have my golden visa in Dubai. And so what does that mean for me? My travel freedom has increased from 108 destinations that I have visa-free access to, now to 170. In terms of my total portfolio score, I almost double that. And most crucially, this is where we see the demand. So it's not just for emerging markets like in South Africa, but everyone's interested in this, and everyone is looking for their insurance policy. And if you want to find out more, you can go to the website. You can actually go and play around with the tool, and also, feel free to reach out as well if you wanted to talk about anything. Thank you very much.